Melissa Clark sat in a chair by the window, gently stroking her swollen belly while gazing at the rain-streaked glass. In her 35 years of life, how many times had she dreamed of this moment? Yet, the feeling constricting her chest now was as much anxiety as it was anticipation. "Why now?" Melissa whispered softly. The pain of learning that her mother, Diana, had planned her sister Carol's promotion party on her due date still lingered in her heart. Her mother's words over the phone echoed in her ears. "I'm sorry, but Carol's promotion is a big event. We can't change the date. Your baby might not be born exactly on schedule, right?" "As always." Melissa sighed deeply. Since childhood, the important moments in her life had always been overshadowed by Carol's successes. On the day of Melissa's high school graduation, her mother was accompanying her sister to a state dance competition. On her college graduation day, Carol's soccer tournament took priority. And even at her wedding, her mother repeatedly left her seat saying, "I need to call Carol." 7 years of marriage. Life with her husband Jack had brought Melissa new stability and happiness. Jack, who worked as a construction site supervisor, always supported her in balancing her work as an accountant with home life. And now, their first child was about to be born. "Why does mother always value my sister more than me?" Melissa quietly asked herself. This question, which had followed her since childhood, remained unanswered. When she announced her pregnancy, her mother's first response wasn't "congratulations," but rather, "Carol has been assigned a new project at work." From then on, updates about Melissa's pregnancy were constantly overshadowed by stories of Carol's professional success. "Can't you change the date of the baby shower? Carol has an important presentation that day." "Your morning sickness is bad?" "Well, Carol stayed up all night to finish a proposal." "Getting the baby's room ready?" "That's nice. But Carol got a new office." Now, as her due date approached, her mother was planning a party to celebrate her sister's promotion. The day coincided exactly with the delivery date predicted by her doctor. "Melissa, don't worry," Jack said, placing his hand on her shoulder. "I'll be with you. Everything will be fine." Melissa smiled and nodded, but a small voice whispered in her heart. What if labor really started? What if she needed her mother's help? "I'll be fine," she reassured herself. "As always, I'll manage on my own." But deep in her heart, she was hurt. Why couldn't she, just once, be her mother's priority? Why did the most important events in her life always have to be overshadowed by Carol? Melissa turned away from the window and headed to the small room prepared for the baby. Pastel pink walls, a white wooden cradle, and a soft rocking chair placed in the corner. Everything was perfect. "I will cherish you more than anything in the world," Melissa whispered to her belly. "You will always be my top priority." In that promise, Melissa put everything she had never received from her own mother. 2 days before her due date, something unexpected happened. Melissa felt her first contraction while making tea in the kitchen. A sharp pain shot through her lower abdomen, and she clutched the counter. "It's too early," she thought. Jack had left on a business trip 2 days ago due to an emergency at a construction site. He had promised to be back tomorrow, but Melissa now realized that promise wouldn't be in time. The clock showed 6 in the evening. Outside the window, the early winter sunset was beginning to envelop the city. Melissa took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Don't panic," she told herself. "This might just be false labor." But 15 minutes later, another intense contraction hit her. This time stronger and lasting longer. With trembling hands, Melissa picked up her phone and called Jack. "Melissa? What's wrong?" Concern seeped through Jack's voice. "Jack? I think labor has started," Melissa said, trying to regulate her breathing. "It's pretty painful. I'll come back right away. But it'll take at least 3 hours. You should call an ambulance." "I am still okay." But I'll get someone to come. Melissa hung up and took a deep breath. Her options were limited. Mrs. Wilson next door had been away on a trip since last week. Her friend Sarah lived out of town and couldn't possibly make it during rush hour. There was only one option left. Melissa dialed her mother's number. On the other end, she could hear lively music and laughter. Yes, today was her sister Carol's promotion party. Melissa hesitated for a moment, but another wave of pain hit her, and she had no time to hesitate. Mom? Melissa strained her voice. Melissa? I'm in the middle of the party right now. Is something wrong? Diana's voice didn't hide her irritation. Mama. Melissa choked on her words as a sudden pain left her breathless for a moment. I'm having contractions, the baby's coming. Come now. There was a moment of silence on the other end. In the background, she could hear the sound of a toast and Carol's laughter. Melissa, today? Diana's voice was cold. Impossible. Today is your sister's promotion party. Don't interrupt. Melissa was speechless with disbelief. Then another voice cut in. Mom, who is it? It was Carol's voice. Followed by a cheerful, oh, is it Sis? Mom, let's hurry and make a toast. Sis can wait. A deep pain shot through Melissa's chest. It was a different kind of pain from the contractions, a pain of a heart being torn apart. Mom, please. Melissa clung to her last hope. I am scared to be alone. Melissa, call an ambulance, Diana said calmly. You're an adult, figure it out yourself. I'm staying here with Carol. The next moment, Melissa was struck by excruciating pain. With an intensity she had never felt before, she screamed and dropped the phone to the floor. Her abdomen hardened, and sharp pains radiated from her back to her waist. Even breathing was difficult. Her head began to feel fuzzy, and her vision darkened. Baby. Melissa whispered weakly. I'm sorry. Mama is weak. She collapsed to the floor, feeling consciousness slip away. The last thing she heard was her mother and sister's laughter from the phone. When she next regained consciousness, Melissa was in an ambulance. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, and an oxygen mask was attached to her face. Next to her was Jack with a worried expression. Melissa. Thank goodness you're awake, Jack grabbed her hand. It's okay, we'll be at the hospital soon. The baby. Melissa asked weakly. Still okay, the paramedic answered. But we need to hurry. The events that followed were fragmented in Melissa's memory. Arriving at the hospital, medical staff gathering around her. The terrifying moment when words like massive hemorrhage and fetal distress were exchanged. Being rushed to the operating room, feeling the anesthesia take effect. And then, waking up in a hospital bed. White ceiling, the smell of disinfectant, the regular beeping of monitors. Jack was sleeping at her bedside. His face showed a mixture of fatigue and relief. Jack. Melissa called out with dry lips. Jack immediately woke up and jumped to take her hand. Melissa. Thank goodness, really thank goodness. The baby, she asked fearfully. She's fine, tears welled up in Jack's eyes. Lily is doing well. She's small, but a very strong little girl. Lily. Melissa smiled. They hadn't decided on a name yet, but somehow it naturally came out of her mouth. You were in danger, Jack's voice trembled. There was massive bleeding, the doctors said it was a miracle. Melissa slowly traced her memories. Of being alone, collapsed on the floor. How did? The work problem was resolved quickly, and I was able to come home earlier than planned, Jack explained. When I got home, you were lying on the floor. His voice choked. I called an ambulance right away. Melissa squeezed Jack's hand tightly. And then, a question arose. Mom. Carol. Jack's expression clouded. They haven't come yet. I called, but they said they'd come after the party was over. Tears spilled from Melissa's eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. She felt something inside her heart becoming hard and cold. For the first time in her life, she completely understood. To her mother, she wasn't second best, she didn't exist at all. Melissa. Jack looked at her worriedly. Melissa slowly wiped away her tears. In her eyes, there was a light of determination that had never been there before. I vow revenge, she said quietly, but with an unwavering voice. On the day of her discharge, Melissa left the hospital with Lily in her arms and a new resolve in her heart. During the week-long hospital stay, her mother and sister visited the room only once. And that was 3 days after Lily's birth. My, what an adorable baby! Diana exclaimed as she entered the room. Acting as if nothing had happened, she spread her arms, attempting to hold Lily. Melissa smiled quietly and pulled Lily a little closer. Thank you, Mother, her voice was calm and outwardly peaceful. But something lingered in her eyes. Carol stood at the foot of Melissa's bed, checking her cell phone as she spoke. Sis, you had a rough time. But all's well that ends well, right? The baby is safe. She laughed lightly. I'll send you pictures of the party later. It was wonderful. Melissa just nodded. Once, she would have been hurt into silence. But now, her heart was cold as ice, and quietly burning. What are you naming the baby? Diana asked. How about Diana Jr.? It would be nice to carry on my name. Melissa quietly shook her head. No, Mom. Her name is Lily. Lily? Diana's face clouded. Why such a name? You know I hate lilies. Diana had once had a severe allergic reaction to the scent of lilies. I like lilies, Melissa answered simply. And in her heart, she added, and because it makes you uncomfortable. Well, I'll get used to it, Diana shrugged. By the way, we'd like to set aside time every Sunday to spend with our granddaughter. With Carol too, of course. Melissa adjusted her position on the bed and smiled gently. Unfortunately, that would be difficult. Lily is still small and needs a stable environment for some time. But... Diana began to speak when a nurse entered the room. Excuse me, it's time for Mother's rest, the nurse said to Diana and Carol. Please come back tomorrow. After they left, Melissa gazed at Lily and held her tiny hand. After returning home, Melissa's plan progressed quietly. Every time her mother contacted her wanting to see Lily, Melissa declined with various reasons. 2 months passed, and the time Diana and her sister had spent with Lily amounted to less than a few hours. Even then, Melissa strictly limited the time and was always by their side. Melissa, why won't you let us spend more time with Lily? Diana complained one day. I'm Lily's grandmother. Melissa smiled gently. Mom, I'm just protecting Lily. Protecting? From me? What are you saying? Diana's voice was tinged with anger. No, not like that, Melissa replied calmly. I just want to ensure that Lily grows up in a safe and stable environment. Her mother left, dissatisfied. And the next day, a call came from Carol. Sis, Mom is crying. Why are you being mean? Mean? Melissa's voice was cold. Carol, you probably wouldn't understand. Do you remember what you were doing when I was nearly dying? A silence followed on the other end of the phone. Let's hurry and make a toast. Sis can wait, Melissa repeated Carol's words exactly. Your words, Carol. At that time, we were in the middle of the party. Carol began to make excuses but was interrupted by Melissa. Yes, in the middle of the party. While I was unconscious on the floor, bleeding heavily, you were toasting with champagne. Carol fell silent. If you want to see her, come next Sunday at noon. Only for 30 minutes, Melissa said and hung up. 3 months later, Diana was planning a tea party with her friends. And she asked for more pictures of her granddaughter to show off. Could you send more pictures of Lily? I want to show my friends. Melissa, holding Lily, considered her mother's wish. And she made a decision. Just as you ignored my important moments, I'll do the same, she said calmly. Lily's pictures are just for our family. What are you saying? Diana raised her voice. I'm your mother. Lily is my grandchild whom you're keeping from me. Yes, you're my mother, Melissa said quietly. But when I needed you most, you weren't there. The phone call ended in a fruitless argument. But Melissa's revenge had only just begun. A week later, the annual Clark family dinner was held, with everyone gathered. Uncles, aunts, cousins, and of course, Diana and Carol were in attendance. After the meal, Lily was surrounded by relatives who doted on her. Diana proudly showed off her granddaughter, acting as if she were the main character. Hey, everyone, Melissa suddenly stood in the center of the room and said. Would you like to hear the story of Lily's birth? The room fell silent. The color drained from Diana's face. 2 days before my due date, I was alone at home when labor started, Melissa began slowly. Jack was on a business trip, and I called my mother for help. She began to recount the details of the day of birth. The moment she was rejected by her mother, when she lost consciousness on the floor, how she was in danger. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were dry. If Jack hadn't come home early, neither Lily nor I might be here today, Melissa quietly concluded. A shock ran through the relatives. Aunt Martha covered her mouth, and Uncle George looked at Diana with accusing eyes. Melissa, how could you? Diana began weakly. It's not a lie, is it? Melissa looked straight into her mother's eyes. What did you say when I called you? Diana was at a loss for words. Carol blushed and stared at the floor. From that night on, Diana's reputation in the community plummeted. The image of an exemplary mother and a successful businesswoman that she had built over many years crumbled overnight. Some of her real estate company's clients even terminated their contracts. Carol was also affected. Rumors circulated at her company that her promotion was postponed due to family issues. For Carol, who worked at her mother's company, this was a serious blow. You've ruined our lives, Carol made an angry phone call. Mom is depressed. It's affecting the business. Is this what you wanted? Melissa answered calmly while putting Lily to bed. Carol, this is just the beginning. Of what? Of justice, Melissa said. And of my new life. After hanging up, Melissa gazed at Lily's sleeping face. Mama has become strong, she whispered. So that no one can hurt us again. In her heart, she felt the anger and sadness that had smoldered for years turning into a quiet resolve. Melissa's revenge had only just begun. 3 years passed. On a gentle Saturday afternoon, as lilies planted in Melissa's garden swayed in the breeze, 8-year-old Lily was playing on the lawn with her brother Noah. Noah had just turned 3 and was an energetic boy who followed his sister around. Melissa sat on the porch, smiling as she watched over the children. At 40, her face showed peaceful happiness and calm. The old wounds had healed, and a new life had blossomed. They really look happy. Jack appeared on the porch carrying 2 glasses of lemonade. Yes, Melissa took a glass from her husband's hand. And so are we. The relationship with Diana had followed a complex path since that parting at the hospital. As promised, Melissa arranged for a care facility for her mother and secured her care after discharge. Carol initially tried to avoid involvement, citing the busyness of work, but was surprised and ashamed by Melissa's decision. To think Melissa would go that far. Carol was reported to have confided to a friend. I was only thinking of myself. Although Diana recovered, her former dignity and confidence never returned. Her reputation in the community was damaged beyond repair, and many friendships were permanently lost. Her real estate business also shrank and eventually had to be sold. Ironically, the relationship between Diana and Carol had also deteriorated. "You abandoned me," Diana accused Carol, and Carol retorted, "You ruined my success." The two now met maybe once a month, if that. "I got a call today," Melissa said after taking a sip of lemonade. "From Diana?" Jack asked. Melissa nodded. "Mom wants to meet Noah. She's never met him yet." Jack carefully observed Melissa's expression. "What do you think?" Melissa gazed at the children and was silent for a while. "I think it's okay," she finally said. "It's enough now." 5 years ago, Melissa thought she had completed her revenge. But in reality, it was just the beginning of her own liberation. The number of visits to her mother at the care facility, initially only once a month, gradually increased. Conversations evolved from superficial topics to deeper ones. "Why did you prioritize Carol over me?" One day, Melissa finally found the courage to ask. Tears welled up in Diana's eyes. "I thought you were strong. Always independent, fine without me. Carol was different. She always sought my attention. I thought that was proof she needed me." That answer untangled something in Melissa's heart. The irony that being seen as a strong had been the very thing that kept her from her mother's affection. Today, Melissa made a final decision. It was time to completely let go of the past. "Tomorrow, I'll invite Mom to our home," Melissa told Jack. "Let her spend time with the children." Jack took his wife's hand and squeezed it gently. "You're a wonderful person, Mel." Melissa smiled. "My real revenge was to become happy," she said quietly. "And to be free from the chains of the past." In the distance, she could see Lily hugging her brother. Tears welled up in Melissa's eyes. They weren't tears of sadness, but of gratitude and liberation. After a long journey, she had finally found her own worth and had truly become a mother in the real sense. "I will never again let anyone determine my worth," Melissa vowed in her heart. "And I will teach my children the same." The sun was setting on the horizon, leaving the promise of a new day.